Hey, welcome back to the garage. So, there's a bit of work we're going to do to the engine in the van today. We've got a long-standing problem with a air leak into the manifold in the van. So we're going to put on a pair of new exhaust gaskets today. These are metal gaskets, and they form a seal where all the pipe work joins to the engine for the exhaust. So I've got a pair of these to put on, and while we're there as well, we're going to put in a new paper carb gasket. In order to fit these small parts, we have to take quite a bit off the engine. So we need to get this air cleaner off here. All that has to come off. We need to take the carburetor off as well, and we need to remove the manifold heat riser as well from the engine in order to get the clearance to get the exhaust bolts or the exhaust nuts off and remove the pipe work. So the reason we're doing this today is there's been an issue with this van for the last while where essentially when it warms up, when the engine gets up to temperature, it's been cutting out. So say you come to a set of traffic lights or something, and you suddenly you take your foot off the gas, to stop, hit the brake, or to change gear or something. The engine will cut out when it drops from those kind of high RPMs to low RPMs. It just dies and you have to restart it again. So it's basically this van's version of a stop-start system. It's very annoying. And the reason I think this is happening is there's one of the old gaskets down there is worn, or it's leaking, and it's letting air in. This manifold here, it operates at a different pressure to atmospheric pressure, so it's kind of like a Hoover. The whole engine runs with a vacuum, and if there's any leaks in there, it'll suck air in to the system, and it'll suck air into the combustion chamber where it's burning the fuel, and the mixture, fuel to air mixture, will be too lean because there's too much air coming in from the outside, and then you'll get things like cutting out. Or rough running as well. When the engine gets warm, it's not able to get enough fuel into the engine. There's too much air coming in, and the engine will run badly. And there's a few places that this leak can happen. Like, it can happen at these boots here as well. These red boots, I've replaced them already. So this is kind of annoying. I'm going back in to do this again. I've already had all this off a couple of times to replace these old boots. I put new kind of polyurethane ones in there, and they don't really seem to have helped. So the reason I think that the air leak is further down where the pipework joins the head of the engine, is that I sprayed some WD-40 down there while the engine was running, and you could hear the engine RPM, the engine speed, going up a bit. So that means that it sucked that combustible WD-40 in and burnt it in the engine and made it rev a bit faster. So that's a good test you can do to check whether you do have air leaks. You can spray the various contact points around the engine to check that. These gaskets, just got them there a while. I've had them lying around for a while, but they're just metal gaskets, and you can see the two exhaust ports there. This is a twin port engine. It's a 1600 twin port engine, so when you're fitting these, you just put the ridge, usually the ridge side, sitting up, and then you can't see it here. Maybe I'll just open the packet and have a look. The flat side here, that should sit on top of the engine. So pipes go there, and then the flat side sits there, and this is where the exhaust studs go through as well. So this is supposed to form a seal to stop air getting in. But these can deteriorate over time. They can get broken, they get bits of dirt in, whatever. So yeah, it's always good to have a few on hand in case you need them. So the tools we're going to use today, just standard kind of screwdriver for taking stuff off, both Phillips head and flathead, a wire brush just for cleaning up around the area that you're going to be fitting the new gasket on. It's important to get it quite clean because there's always a lot of dirt and exhaust deposits and things lying around there, and you want to get those surfaces extremely clean, as clean as you can, without any contaminants in there. Otherwise the pipes won't sit right and you might get a leak coming in. And then the rest, yeah, just kind of a standard socket set, and yeah, that's it. You don't really need any huge amount of tools to do this job. Like most jobs in this engine, you can just accomplish whatever you have sort of lying around. Yeah, so that's it. I think we're gonna just take the various bits off now, and then we'll see what we see. Now, before we do anything, just gonna disconnect the battery to start. You just need to take off the negative terminal. The reason we do that is just because there's some electricity around the alternator and stuff, and you can, drop your screwdriver or spanner or something up there and you get a nice big shower of sparks. Okay, yeah, so we're going to get the air cleaner off now. Yeah, it's just connected in a few places. There's just some hoses and things to undo. Yeah, actually, while I'm doing this, this air cleaner is quite an interesting device. It performs a number of functions in the engine, and a lot of people replace these, or they throw them out. This is the original Volkswagen air cleaner. It's not the original one to this van. This is a pickup, so it would have had a slightly different design. This one's off like a bus. The pickup ones would have connected up here to this pipe, but yeah, good luck finding one of those. Yeah, like these air cleaners, apart from just providing clean air to the engine to burn, they filter it through an oil bath, which collects all the particulates, and dirty kind of things that might come in from the air before they get to the carburetor. But they also do a number of different things. They suck excess kind of petrol fumes in from the tank and recirculate them back in. So if the fuel tank is quite full, it stops like fumes expanding and coming into the cabin. It does a number of other things, like it uses these pipes here to sort of maintain a kind of a positive pressure inside the crankcase to stop air from stop oil leaking out, bleeding out of the engine. One of the actual most interesting things they do is through this pipe here. When the engine is cold, there's a flap in here that's held open, and basically on a cold day, when the engine starts up, or even on not such a cold day as well, the air cleaner pulls through warm air off the cylinders down here through this pipe. So during initial engine startup, the air cleaner provides like warm air down through this carburetor, so it stops ice forming inside. It doesn't just filter the air. Yeah, a lot of people put pancake filters up here, and they're no use at all really, unless you've got twin carburetors and you don't have room for one of these. It's definitely a good idea to go back to stock. The engine will run so much better. So just taking all the ancillary pipe work off here, and we'll get the air cleaner out. I don't think if there's anything else. Yeah, I've just unclipped it from its stand in there. Is there anything holding it back? Right, it's out. Yeah. It's always a good idea to replace the oil in these as well every so often. You can unclip that there and give it a clean. There's a horsehair filter in there that gets all the filters out all the dirt. So yeah, that's that out. And now we're going to move on to the carb. Right, the first step in getting the carb off is we need to disconnect it from the fuel pump. And this is the part where you spill petrol everywhere. Now I've gotten I've gotten one end of the fuel line from the carb off the fuel pump here, and I'm just going to lift it up and just stick it. You just stick a pencil in the end of it, or something, you know, similar, something that's not metal. It's going to tear the fuel line. But yeah, just to keep petrol from spilling out. And then there's just some other extra little connections we need to take off the carb. There's the electric choke up here. We'll disconnect that. And the idle cut-off valve on the left-hand side here, we'll just take that off too. And then the only thing I think left connecting the carb to the engine is the barrel plug on the accelerator cable, which is held on with this little screw here. This is it's just a tiny little screw that loves to disappear. So we just take that off, put it away here somewhere, and then so we can pull the accelerator cable out. And then there's a little teeny tiny banjo clamp in here. Also loves to vanish into the depths of the engine. Yeah, you don't want to lose that. Okay, I think the carb is ready to come off now, so we just need to undo these two bolts down here, and then we should be able to take it off. Cool. Right, so we've got all the nuts off the carb, and all the pipe work and everything's disconnected, so we should be able to just lift it off now. You always have to be careful here because carb is probably full of petrol at the moment, so best not to tip it over too much. So we'll just leave it there for now. And the next thing we're going to do is just disconnect these kind of warm air pipes here from the fan shroud, just to give us a bit more working space in there, and then we'll start kind of pulling the tinware back a bit to get access to these small bolts here, which are obscured by the tinware. Alright, we've got all the bits and pieces off here now, and the whole manifold pipe is now moving. So we should be able to pull these end pieces off here, and the gaskets that we want to get at are down in there, just at that point there. So yeah, we can see that they're loose. So we want to pull these pipes back off these studs, and then we should be able to get these manifold end pieces to come off these the main kind of pipe up here. So that's the idea. So basically just start shuffling things around and see how we can get this off. Okay, after much wiggling and digging around inside the van, we've managed to get the two inlet manifold end pieces off. So yeah, just you can. This is the left-hand side one of the engine, and this is the right-hand side one. You can kind of tell which is which by the left-hand side one always has this kind of hole machined into it, and that lines up as well with the gaskets as well, so you know which way to put the gaskets, which way to orient them inside the engine. I'm just gonna give these a little bit of I've given them a little bit of a clean up with kind of 1200 grit sandpaper and some carb cleaner as well, a good spray of carb cleaner. Just you clean up these ends here and the ends which connect to the upper part of the heat riser assembly. So yeah, you just clean them up to just make sure there's no kind of grit or remains of old gaskets or anything lying there that might interfere with the good flat fit onto the engine. So yeah, we're just to see a bit closer here what this looks like. So you have the ridged end of the gasket always faces up on the faces up towards the manifold piece itself, and this is where it joins the kind of the head of the engine, and then the bottom piece as well. You can see how that orients there with the left hand side manifold piece, so you always kind of know which way they have to go. So it's pretty easy to do. It's next to impossible to get wrong, really. So okay, we've cleaned up the surfaces now that the manifold pipes are going to connect to. Just used some 400 grit sandpaper for that, and some more carb cleaner and like a lint-free cloth as well. So yeah, there's kind of just removed as much dirt as I could around there. It's hard to get to all the areas, but like just try and just clean away any kind of carbon deposits or any other big chunks of dirt or anything that are they're lying around the manifold inlet ports, and also try and clean up the studs as well that the nuts are going to bolt onto too. You don't want any dirt getting trapped in there as well. That could cause you problems when you go to tighten them down. Yeah, so now we're just going to put the gaskets on and then reattach the manifold pipes. Yeah, so we've got the gasket all lined up here on the manifold pipe, and I think the best way to do this is to possibly just get the whole lot on as one piece. That way this will be easier to fit on, won't move around too much. So let's see how this works. It's probably easier just to put the gasket on first. So we'll do that. Remember, ridge side up. Yeah, slips on nicely. And then the pipe goes on top of that. Oh, we'll have to do a bit of wiggling here with this just to sort of get it out of the way. By this, I mean the top part of the manifold pipe. So it's sort of it's a very tight fit in here. We've got a lot of stuff in the way, which you need to force the pipe past. Okay, that's getting down. That's on yet. Seated. Right, so we have the manifold piece seated down now, and just going to put a nut onto that kind of stud there, and we also need to attach this pipe here. We need to reattach this boot onto it as well, so there's a few kind of things to line up. Those you usually use like a 13mm socket, probably with a wobble bar to get down at this guy here, because the angle is not the best. Just making sure that everything is nicely flat and seated. It looks good though at the moment. It's all good and clean there, so hopefully we'll get a good seal. Okay, we've started putting the first couple of the end pieces in now. One thing actually I forgot to mention was that you need to gonna put the right hand side piece in first. Just get that sort of snug into the polyurethane boot, and don't tighten anything down or anything like that yet until we then move over to the other side. And I've started doing the second the left hand side end piece. It just makes it easier to move things around if you haven't tightened anything down yet. So yeah, it's better to do that. Another trick also is to kind of put a little bit of WD-40 on, or some other lubricant, onto the polyurethane boot to help the end piece go onto it, because yeah, they're usually quite tight and awkward to fit on, and there's a lot of pushing and shoving to sort of get it into place. But yeah, some WD-40 definitely helps there. So we've got all the pipe work back on. We've attached the two end pieces now, and put the manifold boots back on and everything. These tubes down here as well are quite difficult to get on. They sometimes don't want to like sit over their the bolt holes properly, so you kind of need to use a screwdriver in the holes to sort of line them up and kind of force them into line. Also the order, I think, in which you bolt the things down is kind of important. It's generally best, I found, to bolt these down first and then bolt these down, because I think what can happen is if you bolt these down first, then they sort of lift these pieces. They can tend to lift them up off the engine block slightly, and that means it might not get as tight a fit, and you could actually end up having more leaks. So yeah, now that we've got all that on, the next stage is just get the carb back on and reconnect all this stuff that's all dangling around here. So right, everything's reconnected now. We've got all the air pipes back on, the warm air pipes. We got the oil bath filter back on and everything, and the carb is back on, tightened up with a fresh new gasket as well. It's always good to replace those things while you have the item off. So we're just going to do a quick test start now and see how it sounds. Sound too rough. The real test of this will be a test drive. We'll get it out on the road. Okay, well, we're just taking it out for a test drive now. Yeah, there's no evidence of backfiring. We're just getting it up to temperature just to see if it cuts out the same way it was before. So, just coming up to some traffic lights here. So it usually like dies in a situation like this, but it seems okay. Still not hearing any backfiring. Stop at these lights, so it'll be a good test. See if we can stop from here. Close to a stop, yeah. That's a good sign. Can we fit through here? I don't think so. Yeah, it's still running pretty well. It's staying running. I'm able to coast to a stop. Yeah, previously you'd have to like fight this battle between like the accelerator and the brake to like kind of keep the van running while being able to stop safely. I'd gotten this down to quite a fine art actually. Hopefully those days are behind us now. This guy is giving me some room to get past. Very good. Okay. Right, cool. So we're back in the garage after a very successful test drive. There was no backfiring or anything like that. We were able to come to a stop at traffic lights without cutting out and having to restart. So yeah, no, pretty successful day. So yeah, I think the next thing to do now, just to get the engine running in tip-top condition, is to adjust the automatic choke and do the timing at the same time. But yeah, that's it for now. So that'll be another video, and yeah, so thanks for watching.